SEGA Bits presents SEGA Talk, a podcast talking all things SEGA! With your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome to SEGA Talk, episode number 29. This episode, I don't know what we're going to call it, Barry. I'm thinking something like Puyo / Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I think we discussed this before the show, right? We talked about, should we just call it Puyo and you wanted to call it Puyo because technically the game is Puyo. But a lot of us in the West, we first got introduced to this franchise as Dr. Eggman's or Dr. Robotnik.
Thank you.
Mean Bean Machine. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it lower here. It's funny that they changed his name and then he had his own game technically in the West, and it was under Robotnik. But so I'm thinking of just calling it Slash. But we have to have Puyo on the title. I decided that it would be kind of like, it would be bad for the franchise for me to be like, oh yeah, this is Dr. Eggman's, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine episode, right? Because a lot of the notes I took are actually about Puyo. There's some talk about the localization and a lot of talk about how companies in the West don't believe in the brand name, which was still a problem in 2015, but we'll talk about that. And just like every episode, we're going to start this episode by talking about your history with either Puyo or Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, or both games.
Okay. Well, I have a real strong connection to Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. As you and I'm sure many people know, I'm a big fan of not just Sonic, but Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. And this came out, we'll get into when it came out around the time of the TV series, but I think they were both, the TV series was kind of at its peak when this was out. And
it was they developed it before the pilot was made. So they saw stuff of the pilot and they made their own kind of thing to it. But yeah, you're right. It was
so 93. As a kid, I was really excited to see Scratch and Grounder on the cover art. And of course, to me as a kid, to see Robotnik on the cover didn't really mean much because you see him on the cover of Sonic 2, Sonic 3. It's a little bit different design, but at that time there was no real separation of what Eggman and Robotnik was. Though, as a kid you were kind of aware of the different costumes. So really I think it was Scratch and Grounder that really excited me. I would have picked up the game anyway, but to be like, wow, they're in a game was pretty cool. And I don't think Sonic's in the game at all, which kind of... Is he? No, he's a boss, right?
No, he's not. No, he's actually not in the game at all. It's just revolves around Eggman.
Robotnik.
And, we'll talk about Robotnik, sorry. I keep on calling him Eggman. I think SEGA has finally conditioned me to not say Robotnik, and now I have to flip the switch, and then I'm all the way back now to saying Eggman. But Robotnik's in the game. The hero of the game, according to Sonic Retro, is Has-Been, who is actually Carbuncle, which is the star or the icon of Puyo. I think they just made him a character because he was assets from the Puyo game.
Yeah, and
so technically,
if I can go down two really weird little not nitpicky, but just interesting things to me. One thing is Has-Been or Carbuncle. This is SEGA of America basically bringing a character from another SEGA franchise, or I don't know if Puyo at the time was really a SEGA franchise, but it definitely was kind of like Pokemon is to Nintendo systems. You know what I mean?
In this point, because we'll talk about the sales about.
And so it's interesting that you had them bringing Carbuncle into the Sonic series as this character named Has-Been. And we also had a Western studio bring Flicky into the Sonic universe through Flicky's Island. And I guess Flickies were also in the Sonic games as the little animals, but I just think it's interesting that Sonic series will sometimes absorb characters like the Dynamite Ducks was a game, and then
Yeah.
they got Bean and brought him in. So it's interesting that they'll like absorb or steal characters from other franchises. The other thing I just wanted to point out real quick was that, I mean, there's a few continuity. There's tons of different Sonic continuities or branches, like Sonic Boom, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Saturday Morning Cartoon 1. But of course, you know, we're going back and forth on the Eggman Robotnik name. In this context, though, this is purely Robotnik. There's no Eggman that exists within the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog universe. And, you know, on the flip side, Sonic Boom is really the only, I mean, unless I'm wrong about this, it's the only Sonic branch or franchise where he is purely Eggman. I don't think Robotnik comes into play at all in that. He's just like, even Sonic X called him Robotnik. Even the Sonic games called him Robotnik in the Japanese versions later on. So I think it's just interesting that, you know, Eggman, Robotnik, it's interchangeable a lot, but in this sense, it's pure Robotnik, just like in Sonic Boom, it's pure Eggman. I don't know, just...
So that's why you're so upset that I called him. Call him
but no, but
like,
to talk about the game really quick, I loved this game so much. I played it a ton. I had absolutely no idea what Puyo Puyo was, and this is one of the only games that my mom would play with me. So she would do a lot of two-player, and you know, I don't know how you were with a lot of multiplayer games, but I didn't have a lot of people to play with. So to have someone to play with, play this game with me was really important. I'm actually looking forward to Thanksgiving, where I'll bust out the Genesis Mini and see if I can get her to play some games. So,
that'd be cool. I feel like during this period, like these like puzzle games were really making its splash for a lot of people, especially grown-ups. I remember watching a lot of my like grown-up family members get addicted to Tetris, which is something that's pretty rare because most of them didn't play games. So I feel like Puyo Puyo would have that same itch, especially for a Sonic fan. I did not have Dr. Robotnik's or Mean Bean Machine growing up. I didn't even have Puyo Puyo until maybe... I didn't play a Puyo Puyo game, so maybe like the mid-2000s maybe, when I think it was called Puyo Pop, I think was the first one, Fever or whatever. So I'm not one of those guys that has nostalgic feelings even for Mean Bean Machine. I did play Mean Bean Machine, though, before any Puyo Puyo. So I have more nostalgic feelings for Mean Bean Machine. I think I got it. I don't even know where I got it. I just remember I played it. I just cannot remember the day. And I just remember it was interesting because, like you said, it had the cartoon characters. And that's something you don't actually see a lot of in these kind of games. And especially at this time, there's always like canon, and I was already used to it as a kid, even without anybody telling me that like the movie, like the cartoon, the comics, and the games were all separate. Like we'll talk about more about that, but like I always thought that was interesting. So first, let's get into some of the history, which is kind of interesting for this game because I did not know how popular Puyo Puyo was in Japan. And we'll get into it because it's actually very surprising. But if you already know, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is a localized version of the 1991 Japanese puzzle game Puyo Puyo. The game actually came out first on the MSX2 computer. And I think the Famicom version came out at the same time. And then later it got a port in 1992 to arcade, Sega Mega Drive, and the Game Gear. That's probably what a lot of more people know this game from. And Puyo Puyo on the Mega Drive was actually a bestseller for 4 months in a row in Japan. So it was a huge success for Compile. So it's probably their most popular franchise. And it was actually a spin-off from their first-person dungeon-crawling RPG called Madao Monogatari, which is about the lead character Arlie Nadaja.
Arl Naja, maybe.
Yeah. So she's like a little girl. She's going to like magic school in the JRPG game, and I guess now she's a puzzler. And it kind of goes with the story because apparently in the story of the game, she learned a magic spell that whenever you put four colors together, they disappear. So that's why they pop. But According to the creator of the game, Masamitsu Atani, he created Puyo Puyo, and it was such a massive success that it made Pile grow from a small company to 400 employees. And they put out a bunch of games during that time. I actually was looking for new IPs, and they didn't really diversify, but I do know they made like Ghostbusters before Puyo Puyo. They did Shadowrun on Sega CD. They did Super Mega Force in the USA on the Super Nintendo. A lot of these games obviously did not sell. Their last Puyo Puyo game they worked on was Puyo Puyo Da, which is like a rhythm dancing game on the Dreamcast. They later the focus of making Puyo Puyo. Okay, so the whole point of Puyo Puyo was to, according to the creator, was when he played Tetris, there wasn't strong characters. I mean, if you look back on Tetris, you'll notice that there wasn't that many like character. There is no characters in Tetris. It's just blocks and a building in Russia. So he decided to make Puyo Puyo more centric to characters, and that's why they used characters from an established compile franchise. And the whole idea to make Puyo Puyo more competitive was influenced by Street Fighter 2. So my question is, while Puyo Puyo didn't have much Western love for its characters, the localizations of the game did feature characters that, including Dr. Robotnik and his robots. Do you think it made it more interested? Did you think this game was more interesting as a kid because of this? Like, did the characters of Dr. Robotnik and his henchman robot make the game more interesting as a puzzle game, or did you fall in love with the gameplay more?
You know, I honestly, I think there were a lot of puzzle games at this time, so you needed to make it interesting. Otherwise, if this just came out as Puyo Puyo and it was all about just beans, or
Yeah.
Puyo, as they call them, I don't think it would do that well. I do think it was a smart move to tie it to Dr. Robotnik, his characters, the Sonic series as a whole. I know there's a huge fan base for this game, but like, I think that works now in an era where people, you know, Westerners get really into stuff like Yakuza, Dragon Ball, things like that. I know this existed at the time, but I just can't for the life of me imagine the Japanese characters catching on with general audiences and kids in the early 90s. I just can't, you know?
Yeah, because like to make a franchise like this, you have to like have cartoons. You have to establish something, right? Like I feel like they could turn a puzzle game into anything. So I could even imagine like a Ninja Turtles version of this.
Right.
So the idea that was localized so much, I think the gameplay is so strong, but like even the studio compile just put other characters created by somebody else in the puzzle game. So it's almost like it was created to be localized in different, I guess,
right.
IPs.
And I know some of the more hardcore fans, they kind of hate on this one, the Dr. Robotnik one. But like, let's be honest, everyone in the end is enjoying the gameplay. Like, I'm not playing it. Like, I buy it for Robotnik and Sonic Connection, sure. But I'm not like glued to the screen when the story mode's going on. I just want to play the game. And when you actually play the game, there's no sign of any of those characters outside of a little box with their face. Like, you're not Sonic, you're not Robotnik, you're just dropping beans. So,
Pretty much.
you know, I mean, I think it's a win-win. And I'm sure a lot of people, you know, they're like, oh, I want to play more of these. Why didn't they make a Mean Bean 2? Oh, wait, there's a whole series I should import and, you know, all that. So I think it worked out in the end. But, yeah, I think it was more interesting, and I don't think this game would have succeeded if it was like a Tetris. Like, look at Columns. Columns was a minor success, wasn't it? But it definitely didn't catch on.
Yeah, like if I would love to see sell figures for like Columns versus Dr. Eggman's Mean Bean Machine, or Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. You know what? I'm just gonna call it Mean Bean Machine from now on, because I'm gonna get killed by
You're
the end
triggering
of this episode,
me
because I already know.
Big time.
I know. I could tell. I could feel it from across the screen. During its height, this is actually the one that amazed me. Puyo Puyo was so popular in Japan that the creator, Itani, wanted to open up a Puyo Puyo Land Park in Chiba, Japan. He kind of said that it was going to be kind of like Disneyland, but with Puyo Puyo characters. Wow. And he actually shared this like early sketch of the park. You can see it in the screen now if you guys are watching the video. But if you're not, it kind of looks like a big resort castle with like I don't know, like, you know, little watchtowers in each corner. And then it's like when you're walking in, there's like a there's Carbuncle opening up his tongue like a red carpet, and people walk into the building, and on top there's like a Puyo Puyo dome. So that would have been pretty sick next to the beach and everything. Obviously it didn't happen because the company went bust, sadly. Like, it's so funny that they made this game in 1991, and we'll talk about their demise right now, actually. So might as well. But did you know that Puyo Puyo was so popular in Japan that it almost got its Disney-style theme park?
No, I mean, I knew it was popular, but not that popular. But, I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me because even here in the West, we've had theme parks come and go from franchises. I know HR Puffin Stuff. I don't know if you know what that is, but they had a theme park.
I have
for like a hot minute.
What's that?
Sid and Marty Krofft in the 70s, they did like Sigmund and the Sea Monster, like a lot of kids shows where it was like people in goofy looking like puppet costumes jumping around. And they had a whole theme park actually in Georgia. And it lasted like a few years, but like that's why something like this doesn't really surprise me, because it's like you get something that's really white hot and they make a theme park out of it. But if they did this, I could see this place going bust in like a year and losing a lot of money. I can't see it sustaining itself.
Well, yeah, especially when it kind of like there was a moment in time when like puzzle games were like the hottest thing ever. Like, can you imagine like in '89 they're like, oh my god, Tetris is so popular with the kids and parents, let's start a theme park. How long do you think the Tetris theme park would
probably
last?
Not long at all.
Probably
and
not.
I mean, you think about it too,
right?
I mean, sports are insanely popular, but they've tried things like, I don't know if you've heard of ESPN Zone, but it's a themed restaurant and like basically like kind of like mini entertainment center, kind of mini theme park for like malls and stuff. It was like super big for like a couple of years, and they all closed because it just didn't do well. So if you're making basically mini theme parks all over the country related to like popular sports that people love, and it doesn't do well, I can't imagine like a popular video game having a theme park. Wow.
And, you know, I could see these characters really taking off in Japan. In America, I mean, not at the moment when this came out. Now, I think we're so, like, diverse in anime that, like, obviously now it's not a big deal. But people forget that, like, in the early 90s, especially 91, 93, there wasn't really, like, in mainstream anime, like Dragon Ball wasn't being like aired here. Americans weren't used to the idea of Japanese style characters or like just little things about Japan culture. Like we didn't know anything. So I you know, I'm more of the thing, like I can see why this took off in Japan, but not here. But yeah, but it never happened. They never got a theme park. So while the company held around with some successes here and there, they never grew to how they assumed. And in 1998, they faced financial troubles, especially when they couldn't hire 120 college recruits that they were supposed to hire. The same year, the Puyo Puyo rights were sold off to SEGA, and in 2003, Compile went bankrupt. The founder and creator of Puyo Puyo found himself working as a security job, while SEGA moved the developer of the franchise to Sonic Team. According to this Wire with News interview with the creator, they asked him if he ever like regretted making Puyo Puyo. He said, nope, because, well, I originally thought that Puyo Puyo was an unexpected hit. For example, if there was a steak in front of you and after you eat it all, you've never thought that was a waste or regrettable, right? That's exactly how I felt when my company went under. It's kind of a stupid question to ask him. Like, are you mad that you had success in your life and you made a game that is still going around and making millions of dollars? According to the article, it wasn't just his company that was in trouble. It was also him, since he took out a 7 billion yen loan, which is $62 million, which forced him to declare bankruptcy. But he didn't give up. He made a comeback with a new puzzle game called, I don't even know how to say this, Noyoki on the 3DS. And he also launched a campaign to do a port of it on the Switch. So I guess if you guys want to see more of the creator of Puyo Puyo and want to support him, check out that game on the Switch. I have not played it or anything, so I can't tell you anything. But I have seen pictures of it, and it kind of reminds me of Puyo Puyo, and especially the name, right? The same name twice. It's kind of...
oh, weird.
You're looking
it's
it up,
like
aren't
hot
you?
dog people hugging.
It's so Sega of America right now is probably like, damn, I wish we had that.
What's going on?
franchise.
It's like hot dog people, but they're connected by the penis. Like, look at it.
It's new, dude. It's the future.
They are.
It's the future of Puyo Puyo. Oh my god! And the company's name is called Compilos. When the company broke up, actually, there was like 3 other companies that team members of Compile made. Like, there's also Compile Hearts, who did a JRPG on PS4 that was supposed to be the like Puyo Puyo. What's that Montum whatever that game we talked about, the dungeon crawling RPG. They made a sequel to that, like a spiritual successor. So Puyo Puyo has branched out, and they're literally making spiritual successors to them in other smaller companies. But Sega kept the name, and I read somewhere that it's made Sega like a ton of cash since the buyout, so it was a good investment for
sure.
them. Not so much for the creator that owed like $65 million.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the downturn of Compile? Do you know? Did you know that the company had a boom bust cycle, like, or history?
No, I thought it was just kind of a peaceful transition to Sega owning them, or maybe there was some sort of like deal where they're like, hey, we'll give you guys a bunch of money, you can all be rich, some of you can work here, you have job security. I even thought maybe the creator moved to Sega. Like, I didn't read some of these notes ahead of time because I kind of like being surprised by these little historical tidbits. So yeah, I'm definitely shocked, but hearing that he took out that loan, it makes sense. Nothing good comes when you take out a $7 billion loan.
It's funny because during this time, Sega was doing kind of the same thing, like it was during 1998, right, when they bought the license. And this is the time when the president of Sega took out a loan or gave his own loan from his own money and wealth to Sega so they could launch the Dreamcast. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird that these Japanese people put themselves in the company. Like, they put so much dedication to a company that they're willing to harm themselves to, I guess, make a comeback. And this shows it right here. And it's kind of interesting. $65 million. Would you take out $65 million for your own company or a company you worked for? Yeah, neither. It's 65. That's a lot of money, man. You got to know how to like take. Like, this guy was probably pretty cocky with himself. I really want to know how much Puyo Puyo sold, because it must have been a lot of money if the company was growing that fast, that like 400 employees. That's a lot of employees for a puzzle game, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially in the early 90s. Okay, so let's talk about the changes they made with the game. We already know that there's the Mean Bean Machine, but it wasn't the first translated version. The first translated version actually appeared in the Game Gear version of Puyo Puyo. If you play the Japanese game of Puyo Puyo on the Game Gear, on the American system, the game changes from Japanese to a game called Puzzlo Kids, which could have been an early idea of bringing the franchise over to America. The game's translation for the Game Gear matches the unreleased English arcade Puyo Puyo translation, which was actually made official translation when it came to Sega Ages on the Switch. But the name of so they changed the name of the Puyos to P Kids. So it's Puzzlo Kids, and the little things, the little beans are called P Kids. What are your thoughts on the initial idea of calling the game Puzzlo Kids?
It sounds stupid.
It sounds freaking lame, dude. Can you imagine that? Like, well, oh, I'm playing Tetris. What are you playing? My mom could only buy me Puzzlo Kids.
You stack the P Kids.
It sounds like a rip-off version of, like, I don't know, like Legos.
It reminds me of that. Remember that show Bebe's Kids?
I've never heard.
Boy, I'm just bringing up all the hits, aren't I? HR Puffin stuff, Bebe's Kids, ESPN Zone.
All the faded memory franchises,
Puzzlo.
right?
Hey, are you Puzzlo's kid? Yeah, that's my dad.
I mean, I imagine. Okay, so we like to. There's people that like to complain about the Mean Bean Machine. At least that made sense. But like translating Puyo Puyo to Puzzlo Kids, that's even worse. Like, I'd rather have something like Puyo Puyo because, like, if I see Puyo Puyo, I'm like, that sounds cute. That could be anything. Puzzlo Kids just sounds like a lame character from, like, a Burger King, you know, like those little kids they used to have in the 90s and the Burger King's Kids Club. It could, like, Puzzlo Kids, it's like, sounds like, I don't know, just some cheap Chinese, like, franchise
kind of does,
they're trying to make. So, not for me, but a year or so after Puyo Puyo Puzzle game took Japan by storm, the US and European markets got a localized version under the name Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on November 1993. While on the cover, gamers would assume it's a puzzle game involving Sonic the Hedgehog, the game doesn't feature the blue blur. Instead, the main character in this game is Has-Been, who dances between matches. If you didn't know, Has-Been is actually Puyo Puyo's carbuncle, who has become the mascot of the franchise of sorts. All things considering, this is really a solo Dr. Robotnik game, which falls in line with early 90s Sonic games centered around characters from Sonic Universe, including Tails Adventures and Knuckles Chaotix. What are your thoughts on Sega sort of dropping the idea of Sonic friends having their own games, while Mean Bean Machine is really just a puzzle game with all these characters from Sonic Universe added in? Would other localizations have worked for American versions of Japanese games? Maybe a Knuckles Shinobi game?
That's a funny question. I thought it was a mistake for Sega to stop these kind of spin-offs. I know they did do Shadow the Hedgehog, but but I just think if you're releasing, like, I think it's cool. I don't know, like, you give Tails his own thing, you give Knuckles his own thing. All kind of have them tied a little bit to the Sonic gameplay, but in terms of like Dr. Robotnik or Eggman, if you were to give that character a game, what would they do? Like, it's not going to be a platformer. I mean, it could be, but it would be kind of weird. So I think it makes sense to give him a puzzle game because he's like a genius. He invents things. I don't know. It kind of fits. I feel like they probably could have worked that in a little bit more. Like, maybe you're building inventions instead of stacking the beans. Like, you could build parts or something. I don't know. But it fits. I think Sega has really missed an opportunity to make a solo Eggman game, though. Because when you look at the advertising for the upcoming Sonic or Mario and Sonic Olympic game, they're really pushing, like, the memes with Eggman. You know, like the latest one, he was, like, jumping around doing the aerobics. And, and it's just, like, in the character itself, you know, voiced by Mike Pollock, is just, like, so lovable. Like, even in the worst of Sonic games, the Eggman cutscenes are always the best. And I'm kind of shocked that they did not either bring this back with Eggman and maybe not localize Puyo Puyo, but like make a new game with that gameplay style, or I don't know, just like I always had the idea of an Eggman game where like kind of like the bonus stage multiplayer in Sonic Colors. Remember that, where it was like an Eggman arcade game where you had robotic Sonics running around. So like it could be like Dr. Eggman. Make a game like Dr. Eggman's Crash Course or something, where it's like you build levels to kill Sonic. or something like that. Like Lemmings. Remember the game Lemmings? Yeah, see, you remember that. But, like, you make a game where, like, little Sonics are running around and you need to set traps. I don't know. I'm riffing. But
yeah, I mean,
cool.
there's so many, introductions to, like, side characters that could make their own games. And I agree with you 100% when you say that Eggman kind of steals the spotlight, and especially because the voice actor, Mike Pollock, he does an excellent job with the character. He has a great sense of humor, and his delivery on comedic lines is, like, second to none. He also has these robots now that have got more developed, his little sidekick robots. I know they changed their names over over time. But the way they, like, even Sonic Boom, the best part was them interacting with each other. So the idea that they've created this, I guess, I don't know how you even say it, like family, if you could even say that for Eggman, he has his own, he doesn't have friends. But the idea that he doesn't have friends and he talks to his own robots and they have comedic bits and stuff would be a great puzzle game. I could already see a sequel to this game using this. And, as far as, I guess, localizing Japanese games, I mean, there's so many. I can't think of any Japanese game, but, like, I would love to have a, maybe, I'm trying to think, like, a vector game. Like, if you could get a platformer from Japan that never made it over and just add, like, vector and beginning cutscenes and stuff like that. I think stuff like that would work. Obviously, fans would like to see Sonic Team have a go at it. So it's just interesting. I think the whole making Sonic friends their own thing was pretty cool in the 90s. I always thought it was very interesting that, like, Tails had his own game and Knuckles eventually got his own game.
And I got to bring this up. Remember in 2015, Cranky Food Friends?
Oh, it's in the notes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's in the notes, my dude. Trust me.
Nice.
Yes, we're going to be talking about that. Another first for... okay. Oh, yeah. Another first for Mean Bean Machine was that the game was actually based on the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog TV show, which came out in America. We did talk about that a little bit in the beginning. The universe never got representation before in the video game world. The game featured their own version of Dr. Robotnik, Scratch, Grounder, and Coconut, since the game was actually being worked on before Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was complete. A lot of the robots used in the game were in the pilot episode of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Some lack dialogue, like Dragon Breath from stage number 11. Did you notice as a kid the separation from the video game universe and the cartoons? Any other franchises that had these separations that you noticed?
It's hard thinking back, but I could have sworn that I didn't. And I think it was because I looked at this as kind of an adaptation or like the continued adventures of Sonic 2 when I was watching the cartoon. And I totally was like on board with the show from day one. I know you mentioned the pilot episode, but that was actually, despite being the first episode, it was aired out of order, which was kind of weird. So the first one was actually, and I'm checking here to get the name right. Yeah, the first one was called... Man, I can't remember. But it was basically like this guy was in a cage for so long that he grew like hair all over his body, and then Sonic freed him and they looked for his lost girlfriend. Oh, here it is. It was called Best Hedgehog. And it debuted September 6th, 1993, whereas the actual pilot we're talking about aired a month later. So imagine that, like you're going in to this new Sonic show that's completely like weird and different from the games. And the first episode's like saving this like naked hairy guy.
Yeah. You know, the studio's like, we have to put that one first. That's the best episode.
It was so weird. And what's strange is that, the one you're talking about, which was called the Super Special Sonic Search and Smash Squad, was the official first episode, and it sets everything up. Like, it tells the story of how Scratch and Grounder were born. A lot of the characters in the game, a lot of the robots ended up actually being bounty hunters, which makes no sense. Like, Robotnik hired bounty hunters who were robots that he did not build. So it's like, where did these guys come from to hunt down Sonic? It made no sense. But at the time, no, I kind of just saw the cartoon as an extension of the games. So when I'd play the games, I'd think about the cartoon and all this stuff probably happening off screen. So when I saw Mean Bean Machine come out, it kind of solidified it for me. I'm like, look, the cartoons are in the games. And then the comics came out. The comics were actually an adaptation of the games, the Saturday morning cartoon, and Adventures. So that really made it really cohesive for me. So I'd watch the Saturday morning one and be like, oh, this takes place after Adventures, but after Sonic 2. You did mention the question of any other franchises that had these separations that I noticed. It's hard to say. I think the Super Mario Super Show, I definitely felt was weird compared to the games. I definitely saw the difference there because hey, Mario, what are we doing? Hey, it's Count Dracula. He's in our toilet.
Yeah, it's like, damn, that would be sick game plot. No,
how about you?
As for me, I agree with you. When the Sonic franchise did the cartoon and Archie did their thing, I didn't really notice it because I feel like the Sonic games were so open-ended. There was no actual story told to you. You could fill in the blanks. So if you wanted to believe that the show was true, then you could go ahead and believe it because it didn't really contradict what's happening in the video game. So I think that worked for it. But as for other franchises that I noticed, the only time I actually noticed it on a franchise was the TMNT franchise, and it pissed me off so much because the movie comes out, right? The sequel. They get two mutated animals, and I'm like, all right, Rocksteady and Bebop, here we go. Nope, it's totally different characters.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what is this? And then my cousin showed me the comics later, and it's like, they don't even have any colored bandanas. What's going on?
That's funny. So because I didn't think about that because when I was watching the original cartoon series, when the movie came out, I was like, this is a little different. There was the whole Splinter was just a rat instead of a man turned into a rat. And that was a little weird to me, but I thought, okay, sometimes movies are different. I don't know why. This is kind of stupid. And then when I'd hear people say, oh, but it's like the comics, I'd be like, what, like the Archie comics? Because those Ninja Turtles had an Archie comic series that was based on the cartoon. Yep. So I, as a kid, I was kind of confused because I'm like, why are you making a movie based on the comics when the cartoon shows what everyone knows? But yeah, that is a little weird. But it's just those tiny little things that kind of throw you off. And I think in terms of Ninja Turtles, it was that Splinter difference where kids were like, something's up. And I think with Sonic, it was the Eggman Robotnik thing. Because when you play the games, they don't really give you any story text or anything. There's no dialogue. But you'll see Egg a lot. You know what I mean? And in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, sometimes they'd have him, I think, eating eggs. So it was just kind of like, oh, Robotnik likes eggs. That's it. Like a little thing. So when I was a teenager, I had a friend who was super into imports, Japanese stuff. He would keep up on all that stuff. And he would shame me a lot of the times when I'd bring up knowledge that I had based on American games that were localized. So I'd talk about the story or character names. And he'd be like, actually, that's wrong. His name's actually Eggman, not Robotnik. And
oh my God. So he treated you like you treated
me right exactly. Now. So I'm sorry. But it was just, looking back, I get where he's coming from. But let's be honest, if I'm playing a game and the game itself, Sonic 1 from Japan to America, there's very little, if any, difference between the game you're actually playing. They did not go in there and change the graphics or change the character names, really. So I'm sorry, but if an official product is coming out with a story in the manual and it applies perfectly to the game I'm playing, how is that wrong? I'm right in the sense that I'm working with what they gave me, and it makes sense within the game. If you're telling me, oh, that's not Eggman, that's not Robotnik, that's Eggman. It's like, okay, then why is the official Sega manual telling me otherwise? Like, I feel like there's a lot of like snootiness when it comes to like some video games, and especially the Sonic franchise, where people are like, actually, the Japanese one's the correct version. And I'm like, okay, then why did Azuka use Robotnik's name later on in Sonic Adventure 2? Like, it's very clear that they're well aware that one region's differences is actually sometimes overriding another original region. So that's my rant. Let's move on.
That's all right. Yeah. While Sega had a big success. Oh, okay, we're gonna be talking about Kirby's Avalanche basically right here. I know we don't like talking about we never really talked about a Super Nintendo game, so this is kind of interesting. But while Sega had a big success in 1993 with Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, the game got another localization change in the West on the Super Nintendo with Kirby's Avalanche, aka Kirby's Ghost Trap in Europe in 1995. So now this is like 4 years after Puyo Puyo was first invented. This version was co-developed by HAL's Laboratory and Banpresto. It's a localization of Super Puyo Puyo, which seems like the first game, but like on the Super Nintendo. So I guess that's why they called it Super Puyo Puyo. Just like Mean Bean Machine, the changes in the game are cosmetic, including the changes to the background, character art, and this one actually featured remixed music from Kirby's Dream Course. And another, I didn't list it here, but there was another Kirby game that it took music from, while Mean Bean Machine actually used remixed version of Puyo Puyo originals. Kirby's Avalanche only used the Panic music from Puyo Puyo as a remix inside it. That's the only one that made it through. And I made a list of other localized versions of Puyo Puyo since, Sega hates it. Windows 3.1 and Macintosh got a version called Quarks. Neo Geo. This is the first time we saw this name, but the Neo Geo version of Puyo Puyo 2 came out in 1999 as Puyo Pop, which is a name that Sega would later reuse with Puyo Pop Fever on the GameCube and GPA. N-Gage also got a Puyo Pop game in 2003. And then the game got an unofficial Amiga release as Super Foul Leg. Disney Interactive made their own kind of, copy of the game called Timon and Pumbaa's Bug Drop in 1995. And we also saw another Amiga clone called Outfall, and another one on the Windows and OS X called Candy Crisis. So yes, we've had a lot of Puyo Puyo name changes for the first game, which is kind of insane. A lot of clones, which kind of reminds me a lot of like Tetris, which also it got infamous for having clones of games that just copied them, and Pac-Man. Did you ever play Kirby's Avalanche? Which of these? Which version do you think worked better localized? Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or Kirby's Avalanche? Personally, to me, I'm gonna have to go with Mean Bean Machine because like it came out 2 whole years later. Like 1995 was already like the death of the Super Nintendo. Like literally, it feels like it was a filler game, right? Like Nintendo's like, we need something to keep these guys happy. All right, change that Puyo Puyo game into Kirby's Avalanche. But also, the name literally has Mean Bean Machine, and it makes sense with what's going on. Avalanche, whatever. Yeah. Like, so I don't know. What do you think?
I'm just kind of shocked with the Timon and Pumbaa one, but
yeah, well, are you? I've never heard of it either.
Yeah,
actually.
I'll bust out another deep cut here in a second, but yeah, I never played Kirby's Avalanche, but I was aware of a Puyo Puyo like game on SNES, and I was kind of bitter about it because I remember seeing either a friend playing it or something in the stores, and I was like, "This looks like Mean Bean. How did they do this?" Like it was just kind of off-putting. I'm like, this is not right. You can't have this, Kirby. Go away. But when you brought up Timon and Pumbaa's Bug Drop, so I actually owned a Windows 95 Timon. It was called Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games, and
that's where it came. It's a bundle.
Yeah, and it came with these decals, like rubber decals you could put on the windows called bug splats. And you can kind of see them on the cover. They like they look like... And I don't have the game anymore to my knowledge. But I have one of these bug splats. And it's like in one of my crates, you know, from my childhood stuff. And I see it like every 5 years somehow. Like when I'm moving or something, I'll see it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's that thing. But yeah, I remember playing that and thinking, this is Mean Bean Machine. How did they like copied it? What's going on here? But there's like a lot of clones in it too. Like there's a Frogger ripoff.
I mean, are you surprised Disney would copy something else? Like their whole legacy is built on copying fairy tales.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't shock me, but it's just like I did not think we'd be talking about. I guess I'm just kind of shocked. I'm in shock right now because I did not think we'd be talking about Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games, and just looking at the screenshots, all these memories are flooding back.
Wow, I didn't know you had a history with it. When I was doing the notes, that's the one that surprised me the most. Like that Disney just blatantly ripped off a Japanese company's game. I mean, I'm sure the game is not as like well thought out mechanically as Puyo Puyo, but it's like you can see screenshots online, and I'll put some on the video. But like it's literally Puyo Puyo in all its senses, what it looks like. It even has a drop mechanic, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think the game resonated with me because there's an awesome pinball game in it, and the graphics themselves are super animated, like hand-drawn. And I just remember the snake spring for the ball would like go, and then you'd like shoot like a bug, like a roly-poly bug or something. It's a good collection, and I mean, I don't fault them for copying a great puzzle game, but it's just... God, that's so weird. Wow.
So, outside of, well, I already know what you're going to say, so I might not even ask. But Kirby, you obviously assume, I mean, you think, I think we both think, but Kirby's Avalanche inferior to Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some Kirby fans that are going to be like, oh, you guys are idiots. And
we are.
That's true. That's true. Sorry. While Western companies... not believing in the name Puyo Puyo goes far back and was still a thing less than 5 years ago, with SEGA changing Puyo Puyo Quest in 2015 to Cranky Food Friends for its American soft launch. Why do you think it took SEGA this long to believe in the name Puyo Puyo?
Honestly, I mean, you brought up Cranky Food Friends. Wasn't 2015 kind of a crazy year for SEGA? Because... that was when they gave Yakuza, like they revived Yakuza in 2015.
Yep.
And so it was kind of a weird year where they were like, Puyo Puyo Quest, it's not doing it for us. Let's give it a name that sounds like someone from another country, like running like a foreign language through a translator. And it's like, Puyo Puyo Quest. And you put it in, Cranky Food Friends. You know, those foods are cranky. You know, it just sounds so weird.
And they even changed like the icon to something that looks like Candy Crush. I think that's what they were going for. They were trying to get moms.
But it's so weird because Cranky Food sounds like Mean Bean, because it's mean, cranky, food, mean.
And you know that was what they just were like. I bet you I already know what happened. Sega came in, they're like, we can't call it Puyo Puyo Quest. We got to call it something else. And the guy's like, I'll think of a name. And he's like sitting there looking at Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. He's like, Cranky Food Friends. There you go. And then that's his name.
It's so weird. It's such like why would you create a new name? New franchise. I mean, it's not if they had more than one, it would be franchise. But yeah, it was like a new potential franchise or a new game called Cranky Food Friends. When you're so close to making just straight up, just make it Mean Bean Friends, or not even Friends,
or just call it Mean Bean Machine. That's it. Literally, just call it Mean Bean Machine. Have Robotnik on the fucking cover, like on the icon. That would have gotten people more happy. You could add a bunch of Sonic lore stuff to it, like
and I remember when we were doing the site in 2015, there were so many moments like this where it was just like they were so close to getting it right, and we're like, what are you doing? And we had a direct line to some people there, and we tried to be nice, we tried to but like sometimes we just wanted to say to them like, what are you thinking? And that's when
I remember...
But then they did the Yakuza thing, and we're like, you're almost there. It's not physical release, it's digital only, but it's selling well. Please bring this franchise back, and don't change the name to Cranky Japanese Friends or something, like...
Yeah. I remember talking to somebody at Sega. Their response was, Puyo Puyo isn't a franchise here, which is true in a way, right? There was never really a big thing, but like, it's so disrespectful to the creators to just change it. Like, it was popular in Japan, right?
Right.
Why not give it a soft launch? Because this was a soft launch. It never made it. So Cranky Food Friends was so badly... it just didn't do well enough for them to make it a full product. But my thing is like, come on, man, have some respect for the franchise you're trying to like bring over. It's almost like Sega, if Sega Heroes, which is a mobile game they're supporting right now, decided that, you know what, we're not going to put Choo Choo Rocket Heroes, we're not going to put Altered Beast, we're just going to call it Sonic Heroes. Then, that's kind of disrespectful, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's the same thing as, or calling it like Cranky Anime Buddies or something.
It was
so stupid.
There was a period of time at Sega where it felt like it was being run by people who didn't know what they had. People who were like, you have all these great IPs, these great brands, but all you're doing is just like bringing them. They were trying to make Sega of America its own thing. Like, they didn't want to be Yakuza. They didn't want to be Puyo Puyo. They wanted to be the studio that made the Golden Compass game, the Marvel games, and they were like, okay, but we're going to have the 4 pillars. There's going to be Sonic. There's going to be, I forgot what the other 3 were, Total War. So it's just like this really weird thing where like America was trying to flex their muscles, Europe was trying to flex their muscles, and they were ignoring Japan like outright. And as a Sega fan site, it was so frustrating because we wanted to call them idiots. We wanted to call them morons. We wanted to be like, you don't deserve to run this company. And yet we had to play nice, so we would get articles and we'd be like, Sega announces Cranky Food Friends. Sega announces Jack Lumber. Hey guys, get ready to return to the Marvel Universe with Iron Man 2. It was just, it sucked. And I felt like I never wanted to walk away from fan sites, but I came very close, I think, at that time where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I'm sorry, but like, It got
a lot better. It's a lot better now.
Oh, it's a lot better. It's great now, but like, imagine that. Like, imagine if that went on for another 5 years. Oh my god.
We'd be playing Cranky Food Friends / Tetris.
We'd be doing a Cranky Food Friends Sega Talk, probably.
Oh, yeah. Remember the incredible 2015 video game? So let's talk about the stories within the game. I mean, personally, I don't think the stories matter in Puyo Puyo, but they become kind of like a focal point of selling these games. Like Puyo Puyo Chronicle is like literally a JRPG with some puzzle elements in it. Puyo Puyo, we do okay, so since Puyo Puyo in-game did not really have a story, the story is actually told through the manual, where Naja, is that how you say her name? Learns a spell that causes similar colors to disappear. So she goes on a journey to beat Satan, which is a character in the game. The early arcade story translation that was uncovered later became official thanks to Sega Age's Puyo Puyo release. The story is different and features different character names, like Satan is actually a dark prince, and they changed the name of the main character. While Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, on the other hand, is set in Mobius. Is that how you say this? The
you
planet's
got it,
name?
Bro.
Mobius. Okay. All right. Which gets taken over by bean-like creatures. The brilliant and thoughtful Dr. Robotnik conceives a plan to bring terror to the world by kidnapping the citizens of Beanville and turning them into robot slaves. With his end goal is to create an army to get rid of fun and joy in the world.
Sense.
So fucking to do this, he has a mean bean steaming machine in order to transform these bean creatures into robots. Robotnik then sends his hinchbots to gather all bean-like creatures and gather them in dark dungeons so they can't be sent to the mean bean steaming machine. This means it's up to you, Mr. Has-Been, to break into these places and free the beans. And the Kirby's Avalanche, on the other hand, has our boy Kirby challenging King Dedede and other members of the Dreamland to a Avalanche competition at the Fountain of Dreams. Kirby takes the challenge and battles his way through an assortment of foes from Dreamland and Kirby's Adventure until he has a showdown with King Dedede to win the cup. All right, so we had 3 different stories here. Which do you think the stories even matter in these games? And I'll tell you my thing in the end. But do you think the stories matter, or you think the gameplay sold these games? Like, does it really matter that Robotnik was doing this, trying to get rid of joy and fun? I mean, it's kind of cheesy, so it didn't really matter at the time.
No,
right?
I mean, a lot of kids skip past the story. It was really, I mean, from what I remember, it was just like Robotnik yelling at a group of robots, and then they would just be like, all right, I'm gonna get you, let's go, and that was it. But like story wise, I think the Kirby one sounds kind of lame. I think the
just
Puyo one, I think it sounds fine, but it really leans on knowledge of the RPG. The Robotnik one, it's goofy, but honestly, I could see that being an episode of the show. Like, if you ever watch the show, like, there's some weird shit going on. So if there was an episode where, like, all the beans are turning into robots, you know, that's Sonic.
For
then
sure.
I would not bat an eye. I mean, there was one where he built it was a tie-in with Sonic Spinball, and he was like, I built the Spinball Fortress. And then Sonic broke in with a Doberman named Sergeant Doberman, who was a Doberman who was a sergeant.
Perfect. I always wanted, like, Dr. Eggman to have a game where he plays the hero finally. That would be like, oh, these bean creatures are killing my robots, so I have to get rid of them from the world. Not because I want to save humanity, but because it's destroying my creations. So he does something good inadvertently or something.
Oh, like there may be like gremlins.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I like that.
That would be cool. Like, the idea they're always making him evil, I mean, it kind of makes him feel like he's just like this, ha 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 ha, I stole all the cake, Sonic. What are you going to do about it? As we talked about in this episode, the game is really, really known for its gameplay. Through localizations, the gameplay of Puyo Puyo has stayed mostly the same. While on the surface, it does borrow from games like Tetris, including dropping Puyos from the top, just like Tetris. Instead of focusing on shape, it's actually about color, allowing you. There's even 5 colors, so there's 5 possible colors like red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and if you connect 4 of the same color, they disappear. Where Puyo Puyo changed compared to Tetris is the ability to chain or combo, due to the game having gravity, they call it. So if you place your Puyos in order, then pop one, you can have a domino effect that pops a lot of them in one move. Mastering chaining combos is considered the best way to master the game. And this was, while Puyo Puyo is also known for its competitive aspect, early releases of Puyo Puyo, like the 1991 MSX and the Famicom versions, only feature single-player mode. Later versions on the SEGA consoles would get mission mode, where you would ask to do a task like clearing all Puyos from the screen, and even add in competitive modes. Did you notice right away that Puyo Puyo was different and complex from Tetris? And what was your thoughts on, I guess, puzzle games at the time?
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that. I never really got deep into like the mechanics of it. I just kind of realized that the better I did in clearing things, the more these like little ghost beans would drop down. So really, I tried to I started to kind of learn to do combos, but I'll be honest, I'm not like an expert at the game. I'm sure someone could kick my ass in a second. But, I mean, you don't need to be an expert to love a game. So
No.
I really enjoyed what I saw, and I just kept playing. And as far as puzzle games at the time, I did not play that many. I think this was the first one I really got into. And I think it just speaks volumes to the quality of the gameplay style. What I really liked is I felt like there was a lot more to the game than some other puzzle games at the time. And, it kind of goes back to when we talk about games like Virtua Fighter or something, where it's like, it does seem really pure and simple, but once you start to get into it, there's some really deep mechanics going on. And I mean, I think that's great, and I'm glad the game, I'm glad the game stuck with me like that. But it really is just a testament to the game.
Yeah, when I play the game, I notice the chaining because I did, you do it in accident sometimes, and then you start noticing like, whoa, what the hell's going on, dude? All this crazy stuff is falling down. And then it's one of those things that once you first see it, you're like, oh, that makes sense, right? So the tops, if one pops and then there's purple ones on top and there's purple on the bottom of it, they'll also pop because there's 4. It's just once you see it, it's like it just clicks in your head, and you don't have to like say, oh yeah, it's called chaining. It's like it makes it seem so more difficult than what it really is. It's really a domino effect, and that it really does set it apart from Tetris, because I played Tetris growing up, and like Tetris was literally just the satisfaction of putting two shapes together to making like a wall.
Right, and I mean, I know Tetris is like super popular, super deep. I mean, I think there is a lot of depth to it, and we've even had like a Tetris champion, the guy who does a lot of the matches, the commentary, Chris Tang. And, you watch him playing, and there is like a lot of strategy and stuff involved, but it always seemed like a very simple game to me. And I guess that's a testament to it, but it's...
there's no chaining. There's no chaining like in Puyo, but it's still a complex game. I'm sure it takes a lot of like effort. I don't know. Like I would love to see and like talk to Chris Tang and talk about his opinion on Puyo Puyo and if he plays it, because I know he played Tetris World Championship. So somebody that plays Tetris in a high level, what do they think of other puzzle games? That would be pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
And there's even a guy that lives in the town where I live in, some like 16-year-old kid that just won the world Tetris champion on the NES, which is kind of crazy. It's like, it's like teens are playing Tetris too now. Even the old NES one. I don't know which version Chris Tang won his championship in. The NES?
That's a good question. I'll have to find that out. I don't know what his expertise is. I know when I watch him play, it's like he builds it up, and he always keeps this one column empty. Up, drop down, boom.
That's what I noticed. That's like the bread and butter thing, and I guess Puyo has that, but like I feel like people have like color ideas, like I'm gonna put 2 right here, and then
I have to wonder, does Puyo? It's kind of like Tetris has this one way to do extremely well, so why are you going to play any other way if you're being competitive? And I don't know if Puyo Puyo has that. I could be wrong, and that's not like a slam on the game at all, but it's kind of like there's certain fighting games where they're like, why would you play it any other way? Because if you just spam the same attack, you're going to win every time. But that doesn't make it interesting for me to watch as much.
I guess in a fighting game, the answer would always be like block or, have the range differently. But like in a game like Puyo, there is no like blocking, right? So it's not like there's a move where like if you get the red once, you actually block the garbage Puyos from coming in, and you know what I mean? Maybe there is, and I'm just really bad at it. Let's talk about the legacy of the franchise. While Puyo Puyo was conceived way back in 1991, the franchise didn't get a fair shake in the West until Puyo Puyo Tetris. At least I don't know if you agree with this, but Puyo Puyo Tetris on the PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PC in 2017. SEGA would also release Puyo Puyo Champions, aka Puyo Puyo Esports in Japan, in the West in 2019, which is a stripped-down, competitive version of Puyo Puyo that lacks single-player modes. Even back before Puyo Puyo got a proper push in America, it still made cameos in Sega games, like having its own minigame in the 2004 release of Sega Superstars titled Puyo Pop Fever, and they also got one in Sega Superstars Tennis in 2008 in a form of another minigame.
That's right.
In 2017, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine boss level was included in the 2017 version of Sonic Mania, which Whitehead said was one of the hardest boss battles to design. What are your thoughts? Did I miss anything? I'm sure there's other games out there that had Puyo Puyo.
Did you talk about All Stars Racing Transforms Japanese version? I forgot if you mentioned that.
No. I did not. So tell us.
They used the Puyos for one of the weapons. And people who played the game... No, it wasn't Transformed. It was the original one. But they used a Puyo for one of the weapons in the Japanese version. People are like, why the hell didn't they do this? But again, this was at the time when Sega was doing weird stuff where they're like, we have Puyo Puyo. It would work perfectly here, but it's not an American thing, so let's not put it in. You know?
Terrible idea. And you know what's funny? Because, like, me and you, we covered that. I mean, I don't know we covered that game, but, like, we were pretty attached in the community when the game came out. And I don't even remember that, like, they did it, that Puyo Puyo was in the Japanese release. Like, I didn't even know that. It's so crazy that how much Sega really wanted to ignore Puyo Puyo in the West.
Yeah.
It's like they went out of their way. Like, I feel like they had meetings and they're like, all right, guys, Puyo Puyo is in this game. God damn it. God, we got to change it. Crazy Food Friends.
They would get upset. You're right.
They're like, God, these Japanese people, they don't know what they're doing.
Get Azuka on the phone. I want to chew him out.
Yeah, like the idea that they went in and took him out of the game. Like, why? Like, it's just a power. Nobody's gonna. Oh my God! It's what did they make, a glove or something, or like a
yeah? I've got to imagine the developer wanted to do it, and they were like, "No, put this in." And then when they did the Japanese version, they're like, "Oh, we can put it in." And they're like, "Well, yeah, because it's Japanese," you know. Because I know full well that the original All Stars Racing, they were throwing a lot of fan service in there that probably snuck past Sega. And then you jump to Transformed, where they're like, oh, you have Segata Sanshiro on a rocket? Yeah, that's fine. You know, like, that's cool. That's fine, yeah. You know, it's a totally different Sega. But yeah. Oh, and we're not going to forget our Patreon comments, are we? I know we haven't finished yet.
Well, this is the last question, and then we'll get to Patreon comments. But we talked about ports and versions of Puyo Puyo, but which do you recommend to our listeners? And which one would you recommend them to skip?
I would say you should definitely play the Mean Bean Machine on the Genesis Mini. Check that out. Switch it over to Japanese language, and you can play Puyo Puyo. It's a great way to get both versions of the game. Try it out. I'd say the Sega Ages versions are great from what I hear. I would probably, you know, it's hard to say. I think Puyo Puyo 3, is it? I don't know. Japanese and Saturn ones, I don't know. I like Puyo Puyo Sun. I thought was kind of fun, but it's just they didn't really grab me. I'll be honest, like the original one, and I think Puyo Puyo Fever are very good.
And I would recommend, at least what I've been playing was, I recommend obviously the Sega Ages version of Puyo Puyo. I agree with you on the Sega Mega Drive Mini or Genesis Mini with Mean Bean Machine and the Japanese language changing it to Puyo Puyo. And if you have a modern console, I would not suggest Champions because it's so, like, there's nothing to it. I would suggest getting Puyo Puyo / Tetris because it's cheaper. It has Tetris, so if you have a mom at home that just likes Tetris, you could play the Tetris mode only, or you can mix it up. And there's so many modes on that; it's kind of insane. So definitely check that out. It has a long story. It's not an incredible story, but it's a story. And And you could also support Sega for finally bringing Puyo Puyo as Puyo Puyo and not Puyo
Yeah,
Pop.
and I think...
Because that's
I
garbage.
will say, like, Puyo Puyo 3 and 4 are just kind of interesting, strange games. I think you can get 2 and 3 on Saturn import, and 4 you can get on the Dreamcast. So if you really want to take the deep dive, they definitely are worth checking out. I just... Like, I have trouble seeing the difference in the gameplay styles, but out of those... I feel like 3 was the most interesting because it used like a sun mechanic. And so...
Yeah.
And it has that cutesy style. 4, it has more of a realistic style. So if you like realistic anime, that one might appeal to you more. But to be honest, like I'm not really into the characters or storylines. So if the only real difference is that, then whatever. But, you know, do a little research, see what the gameplay variations are, and have fun, because I think there's more good games than bad in the franchise. And even a bad Puyo Puyo game is probably not that terrible, is it? I don't know.
And if you want to know, I guess, get more into the community of Puyo Puyo, you guys could check out Puyo Puyo Nexus, which is like a Wikipedia site. They have some translation and guides on playing the Japanese versions, so I guess if you guys want to play the Japanese versions of these games, you guys can. But I'm going to let you do the Patreon comments.
All right, well, let's dive in. So we've got one this time. No fault to the other listeners. Maybe they just didn't have memories. Maybe they forgot. But this one's from Bad Sonic, spelled S with a 5, so Bad Fivonic. And they say, my first play was Puyo Puyo 4 on the Dreamcast. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so at first the anime look catches me, but after that I fall in love with the simple but strategic puzzle game. So that's interesting here, that they kind of had a similar thing with me and Robotnik, where they fell in love, the anime style caught them, and then they loved the gameplay. For me, it was like, oh, the beauty of Robotnik and his giant butt. And then I got into the...
Yeah, that's what got you.
I mean, his ass, of course. I mean, he's not showing it on the cover, but I know it's in there. And then Bad Sonic continues. He says, my favorite was Puyo Pop Fever on the Xbox. The new cartoony look isn't my style. I'll admit, I have to agree with him there. It feels a little flash gamey, the new style.
It does, yeah. And that's the one that, like, Sonic Team did. Right?
Yeah, it didn't really... It is a little cheesy looking back. And then he says here, the gameplay with friends, on the other hand, was perfect fun. So, yeah, we got a Puyo fan. Found the Puyo fan.
And it's funny because, like, I was kind of hesitant on talking about this game. We don't even know what we're going to talk about next week. So, like, if you guys are a Patreon supporter, send us some messages on what game you guys want to see covered the week after next. I don't know what we're feeling like. Maybe going on a Sega Saturn, maybe an arcade game, maybe a Dreamcast, maybe even a more modern game on the Xbox, PS3 or something.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And, like, I got to thank you, George, for picking this one, because time and time again, we do these episodes, and I look at it, I'm like, there's no way we can fill an hour talking about, you know, Game X. And then I look at the clock, and I'm like, holy shit, we talked for over an hour about Puyo Puyo. So, you know, don't be afraid to suggest some weird stuff. I joke that Snail Maze is going to be an episode, but someday it will be, and we're going to be shocked that we were even able to talk for like 20 minutes about it. So.
It's a great game, though. So. Bye, everybody.
So are we going to do a turkey game?
Yeah, we are going to do turkey.
What's a turkey game? Oh, you know what a turkey game might be? Turkey 2. Turkey 2, and there's Turkey 3. Turkey and Knuckles.